Ali, 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 yeah. I praise Allah for these lessons. I'm striving to be the message, and I thank Allah for His blessings. Ali was the circle 7. I praise Allah for these lessons. I'm striving to be the message, and I thank Allah for His blessings. Ali was the circle 7. I praise Allah for these lessons. I'm striving to be the message, and I thank Allah for His blessings. Ali was the circle 7. I praise Allah for these lessons. I'm striving to be the message, and I thank Allah for His blessings. Ali was the circle 7. I praise Allah for these lessons. I'm striving to be the message, and I thank Allah for His blessings. Ali was the circle 7. I praise Allah for these lessons. I'm striving to be the message, and I thank Allah for His blessings. Ali was the circle 7. Islam, 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 Moorish America, on the rise upon the 7th, and give all praises to the great God Allah, Father God Allah, and honors to His holy prophet, honors to our holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, El Hajj Sharif Abdul Ali, that is. We give honors to our Moorish kin once again, here, there, and everywhere, and therefore honors to all of you who are continuously honoring yourselves by being yourselves. I want to call forth our beloved Consul General of the territory of Texas, Dr. Marvin Nathaniel Edwards Bey, that he may come forth and open up our hearts and minds as he opened up the way. Islam, General.
Islam.
Islam.
Yes, this is Dr. Marvin Edwards Bey, Consul General of the Texas Consulate, rising, giving all praises to the great God Allah, giving highest honors to His prophet, our Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Give high honors to our theocratic government, our Moorish American government. Give high honors to our Act 1. Give high honors to all of our officials. Give high honors to this class, our E.A.R.S class, our Egyptian Adeptus Research Sultanate class. As well as I give honors to you, Dr. Shedu Amenti Amoheti Shepsuel, also known as Commission Adept Hereford, and instructor of this class. Give you honors for all that you do. We give honors to everything that's Moorish, our flag, our seal, our emblem, our divine constitution, our Holy Quran, our Book of Ali, our 101, 102, the exhuming of a nation. All of our divine revelation, I give honor. Give honor to the panel and those that are in the audience. And I'll begin with our commencing it, Moorish American prayer and constitution. Ya Allah abnuheru meku neteru. Ya Allah abheteru. Ya Allah ma'atheru. Ya Allah hoteperu. Ya Allah heru. Ya Allah ma'at herkuti. Ya Allah awajet dejuti. Ya Allah pertem sutet. Pertem heru. Ya Allah bamaduti. I'll head this way up to Ali. Amen. Hallelujah. 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 In transliteration, O Allah, the Father of the universe. O Allah, the Father of love. O Allah, the Spirit of truth. O Allah, the Spirit of peace. O Allah, the Spirit of freedom. O Allah, the Spirit of justice. O Allah, you are my protector. O Allah, you are my guide. O Allah, you are my salvation by night and by day. O Allah, to your holy prophet, to Ali. Amen. Holy Issa. Holy Issa. Holy Issa. And I'll be reading the Divine Constitution of Moorish America. Salvation, our God, unity, the divine constitution of Morse America. Act 1. The Grand Sheik and the Chairman of Morse America are in power to make law and enforce laws with the assistance of the Prophet and the Grand Body of Morse America. The Assistant Grand Sheik is to assist the Grand Sheik in all affairs if he lives according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and it is known before the citizens of Morse America. The bylaws, Act 2. All meetings are to be open and closed promptly according to the Circle 7 and love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Friday is our holy day of rest, because on a Friday the first man was formed in flesh, and on a Friday the first man departed out of flesh and ascended unto his Father God Allah. For that cause, Friday is the holy day for all Muslims all over the world. Act 3. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice must be proclaimed and practiced by all citizens of Moorish America. No citizen is to put in danger or accuse falsely his brother or sister on any occasion at all that may harm his brother or sister, because Allah is love. Act 4. All citizens must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all citizens must obey the laws of the government, because by being a Moorish American, you are a part and a parcel of the government and must live the life accordingly. Act 5. No organization of Moorish America is to cause any confusion or to overthrow the laws and constitution of the said government, but to obey hereby. Act 6. With us, all citizens must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are a part and a parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to the slaves by the slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali the Prophet to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites, whom inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All citizens must promptly attend their meetings and become a part and a parcel of all uplifting acts of Moorish America. Moorish Americans must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of Moorish America, and then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children, and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother, and be industrious, and become a part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All most Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love, and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, through the guidance of his Father God Allah. Noble Drew Ali, Prophet Noble Drew Ali, peace and blessings be upon him, founding father and framer of the divine constitution and bylaws of Moorish America. This meeting has been opened according to law. And I will give this meeting over in the hands of Dr. Dendra Ani Akernabe, our National Grand Secretary of the State of South Carolina. Islam?
Islam, 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 God man. Islam, Islam, Islam family. I am Dr. Dinger Ania Kurtabe. But first, let me rise and give praises to our great God Allah and give honors to our holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali. I give honors to Act 1. I give honors to all my government officials. I give honors to our National Assistant Grand Sheik for conducting this class this morning. And I give honors to our Council General of Texas, Dr. Marvin Edwards Bay, for opening us up according to law. And now I will be reading, coming from our Holy Quran, chapter 45, marriage instructions for man and wife from the noble prophet. This chapter is to be read secondly to the wife. by an ordained divine minister of the Moorish American government, doing all marriage obligation ceremonies. The supreme laws of the prophet are now being enforced throughout our land. Give ear, fair daughter of love, to the instructions of prudence, and let the precepts of truth sink deep into thy heart. So shall the charms of thy mind add luster to the elegance of thy form, and thy beauty, like the rose it resembles, shall retain its sweetness when it blooms, when its bloom is withered. In the spring of thy youth, in the morning of thy days, when the eyes of men gaze on thee with delight, and nature whispers in thy ear the meaning of their looks, hear with caution their seducing words. God wear thy heart, nor listen to their soft persuasions. Remember, thou art made man's reasonable companion, not the slave of his passion. The end of thy being is not merely to gratify his loose desires, but to assist him in the toils of life, to soothe his heart with thy tenderness and recompense his care with soft endearments. Who is she that winneth the heart of man, that subdueth him to love, and reign in his breast? Lo, yonder she walk in maiden sweetness, with innocence in her mind, and the modesty on her cheek. Her hand seeketh employment, her feet delight not in gabbing abroad. She is clothed with neatness, she is fed with temperance. Humility and meekness are as a crown of glory circling her head. On her tongue dwelleth music, the sweetness of honey floweth from her lips. Decency is in all her words, in her answers are mildness and truth. Submission and obedience are the lessons of her life, and peace and happiness are her reward. Before her steps walketh prudence, and virtue attendeth at her right hand. Her eyes speaketh softness and love, but discretion with a scepter sitteth on her brow. The tongue of lasciviousness is dumb in her presence. The awe of her virtue keepeth him silence. When scandal is busy and the fame of her neighbor is tossed from tongue to tongue, her charity and good nature open not her mouth. The finger of silence resteth on her lips. Her breast is the mansion of goodness, and therefore she suspecteth no evil of others. Happy were the man that should make her his wife. Happy the child that should call her mother. She presideth in the house, and there is peace. She commandeth with judgment, and is obeyed. She arises in the morning. She considereth her affairs, and appointeth to everyone their proper business. The care of her family is her whole delight. To that alone she applieth her study, and elegance with frugality is seen in her mansion. The prudence of her management is an honor to her husband. He heareth her praise with a secret delight. She informeth the minds of her children with wisdom. She fashioned their manner from the examples of her own goodness. The words of her mouth is the law of their youth. The motion of her eyes commandeth their obedience. She speaketh, and the servants fly. She pointeth, and the thing is done. For the law of love is in their hearts, and her kindness added wings to their feet. In prosperity she is not puffed up. In adversity she healeth the wounds of fortune with patience. The troubles of her husband are alleviated by her counsel, and sweetness by her endearment. He putteth his heart in her bosom, and receiveth comfort. Happy is the man that has made her his wife. Happy the child that called her Mother. Islam, Islam, Islam. I will now turn everything back over to our instructor, Dr. Shadu Amenti El Maheja Sepsuya. Are you there, National Sister Grand Sheik?
Islamism. Yes,
Islam,
goddess and queen.
Islam. I can hear you well.
Islam. And Islamism, Moorish kin. Want to rise again upon the seven and give all praises to the great God Allah, Father God Allah, and honors to his holy prophet, honors to our holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali Al-Hajj, Sharif Abdul Ali, that is. We give honors to our Moorish kin once again, here, there, and everywhere, and therefore honors to all of you who are continuously honoring yourselves by being yourselves. We give honors to our Grand National Seal. We give honors to our Grand National Emblem, National Flag, Divine Constitution, and bylaws, and honors to all of you who are indeed a living manifestation and personification of everything. And I do mean everything that our holy prophet brought to make us a nation. I want to welcome you again to another E.A.R.S. Egyptian Adeptus Research Sultanate session. I'm your host instructor, Dr. Shahid Imani Amohadi Shabazz El, and my ancient Comedian high name being the same as Dr. Shedo Wamenti El Muhajid Sheptuel. And as always, family, we have a grand drawing to bring to the manifest. We still dealing with the Medu rate in Kemet. For those who are not familiar with what the Medu rate in Kemet is, the Medu rate in Kemet is actually the language of the ancient Egyptians, and we're not speaking of, hieroglyphs or pictorials or anaglyphs. We are actually going into the hieratic or the hieroglyphs in relation to dealing with this. And we have come a long way. We want to give honors to the scribes, the high priest and the high priestess that are present on this special uh, uh, live stream, and also those who are watching, from the audience. We give honors to you. We welcome you as well, as we bring these things forth to the public, because these are the things that are going to advance our people when it comes to dealing with the ancient Comedian teaching. It's all about coming into what it is that you would like to know, what it is you would like to study, and so forth and so on. So we give these offerings just as our ancestors demonstrated in past time, in hope that our people may be able to be a people of progress and a people of progression, as a result of what it is that we have to bring and offer to our family. So if you are there and you are gaining something, all is well. That's all that matter at this particular point. These teachings that we give, often you have to go to, universities, and you have to pay large sums of money for these things, but we don't ask our people for anything, but their will to learn, their will to know. And hopefully we can encourage and inspire our people that they may become elevated. For those who are not familiar with the difference between, the Medu rate and Kemet and the actual pictorials, or what a lot of people like to call hieroglyphics, you can actually see I had a Medu rate and Kemet right here. This is what it looks like. Most people not familiar with this, and it says exactly what the transliteration says. Ankh Wajet Saner. You see? And so we're going to keep giving our people the truth so that they can learn it and get some grand insight. So at this time, what I'm going to do, we like to always open up the way from our book of fire. I keep telling our people to get this book. You see this book. You see how big this book is. This is the only true book that has the autobiography of Noble Drew Ali in it. You know what I mean? With our flag seals and inside on them. So you can see I've been putting in work. It's kind of beat up here. I got tape in the binder and everything. I got it on the inside of the page. I stay so immersed in this, but we're gonna call forth our scribes to read from the book of fire. You know, and give me
Islam.
1 second more. Let me hold up. It'll be page 404, and we will be going into page, let me see, 408. And we can stop above, is there a cross for you? Islam. Brother Bati Bey, you can start off if you will. 404.
Islam.
Islam.
I would do one.
Okay, and Sister Curta Bey, all is well. So Brother Bati Bey can start from the divine origin of the Ten Commandments, and then you can go over to above the Constitution of Ma'at, and then Sister Curta Bey, you can pick up from the Constitution of Ma'at, and actually you can go on over to the other page because it's really not a whole lot. So we'll give the reading between you two. Islam.
Okay, Islam.
And you can stop above, is there a cross for you? Islam.
Is Islam. Gratitude.
Gratitude. Peace and love.
Islam, Islam, Islam. First, I'd like to rise and give all men of praise to Allah, honest to the Prophet, honest to our theocratic government, our royal council, our flag, seal, emblem, our divine constitution, our swift angels, mufti, citizens alike, honest to all the Moors that are here in attendance, all the ones that will be, and honest to our Assistant Grand Sheikh for this class, Islam. And I will begin. Divine origin of the Ten Commandments. The Ten Commandments, as translated in the Bible, are not the true tablets of laws bestowed upon Moses out of Egypt, ancient command. The biblical Ten Commandments appear 2 places in the Old Testament, Exodus 20 to 1 to 17, and Deuteronomy 5, 6 to 21. The two are similar but not identical, pending whether in the Protestant, Anglican, and Orthodox Christians who follow Jewish traditions, or Roman Catholics and Lutherans traditions used by St. Augustine, which combines 1 and 11 and splits the last commandment into 2. The latter changes the numbering of the Ten Commandments by 1. However, it is the basic principle of the Ten Commandments that comes as a prophetic warning by Noble Drew Ali in his chapter 46. The beginning of Christianity, the Moorish American prophet wrote, these teachings were not accepted by the rulers, neither by the rich, because they loved the principles of the Ten Commandments. Through the Ten Commandments, the rulers and the rich live while the poor suffer and die. In order to understand the original constitution of the commandments, one must study the holistic teachings of the ancient Moorish. Since the Garden of Eden, all initiate students were taught their minds were a part of the divine mind, that I was a state of responsible perfection and constant mastery. This is why Moses was not told the name of the great God, but only to reply, I am that I am, meaning I am you, or Emmanuel, God and man, to identify himself as the Christ, so Pharaoh would understand. Prophet Noble Drew Ali, among the many inheritance, returned the true commandments of the Moorish people from Egypt's sacred Adept Brotherhood. He was the first in America to teach from the ancient Egyptian constitution known as Tablet of Resurrection in the Light. The European West, especially the Wallace Budge translation, called this the Egyptian Book of the Dead, a typical misnomer and customary pale skinning of African history. One moment. I gotta highlight something. Ooh. Fortunately, more contemporary scholars refer to it as the book coming forth by day. This later transliteration is more Afrocentric and relevant than the Roman book of the Black Book of the Death, Book of the Dead. These oops highlights the meaning of the word black, which according to science means death. And the common fact that just because the truth starved African American scholars colloquialism, connotations, and misuses of European words does not alter their true meaning. For example, the word black means death or negative for all of history until the 1960s Black Power movement in America. Since then, they have given it the reverse connotation of life and positive. Still, everywhere else in all nations, in all lands, black is just a word, which means death. Yet the most brilliant of the miseducated black intellects apply the word to themselves and children without serious inquiry. But only in America, the only place on earth where black people have been lawfully made and produced for 4 centuries. Anyway, back to the Ten Commandments. Most modern biblical scholars avoid trying to explain why virtually all the laws of the great God were given to olive skinned peoples, mostly in Africa, originating in the higher elevations of the East Africa, from the Upper Nile to Sheba, Ethiopia, or from the mountains of the Holy Lands to Africa Kushite Peninsula called Arabia, separated by the European artificial waterway, the Suez Canal, dredged in 1869, but nationalized by Egypt in 1956. All of the prophets which transmitted the words of God were African or Asian nationals, from Adam to Muhammad, with nearly 2,500 in between, including Moses, Abraham, David, Solomon, and Yehoshua. See the Garden of Eden. As for Moses, one must remember he was Hebrew born, but raised as an Egyptian adept master, not as an ordinary Egyptian, but in the highest Comitian nobility of the pharaohs. Naturally, Moses received of instructions all the instructions of the adept Egyptian mystery system because he was being groomed to become a pharaoh. Drew Ali enlightened the Moorish Americans to the principles of the Ten Commandments, the foundation of thou being the principal addressee instead of I. The old time religion taught I, self, Lord, and master equals Islam, ISLAM. Islam equals peace. The Egyptian constitution of Maya governed with the word I to include the first person of me, mine, my, we, and ours. The Greeks, Romans, and kings of the James boys translated Maya I to thou to feature the second personage of thee, thine, thy, ye, and you. Though these revised versions to the principle Roman European rich lived while the poor suffered and died to receive their reward in the sweet by and by. Moses, Abraham, and Sharif Abdul Ali were all Egyptian adept masters. They were born unto various African tribes, but their degrees of prophethood were all founded upon the ancient Egyptian mystery system of self-mastery, the deification of God and man, here and in the hereafter. When Moses introduced the tablet of law to the nations of Israel, they were pure and did not contain any other God before the one found within. Quran, Surah 7, Ayat 145. In Palestine, where Greek had been made the national language, it was the pale-skinned people who titled themselves God, meaning ruler of the land, question 93, and other people were thou. Contrary to Western beliefs, the great God did not write the Bible. It is translated by European Greeks, Romans, and Englishmen from pillaging the tablets of African prophets. Now, nowhere is it written where King James or his kinfolk, Frank and Jesse, went to Allah and had the word ordained them to write the Bible. All true and divine prophets who ever left a book say where and when they received the words from their God, because most of all the sacred writings were handed out in stages from the ancient mystery systems of Egypt, albeit the Bible was never ordained to be. Where is its prophet? It's God. And where did it acquire the word holy? And since truth is immutable and will make men free, why has the Holy Bible as the word of God been changed over 315 times with over 2,000 versions? In 1700s, the York and Scottish Rite orders of Freemasonry This established this principles of the Ten Commandments as the absolute requirement for initiates into its secret society. Freemasonry, built upon the murder of Harem Abiff, ancient African wisdom, was designed strictly for free white men by free white men, with the commandments firmly in place. Members could assume the attribute of God, and all others were outside in the profane world. Basically, every Mason must recognize the lodge and fellow members as purity by swearing, so help me God, upon demand. Needful to say, these principles of the Ten Commandments were later brought to North America and written into the Declaration of Independence and U.S. Constitution by the same Masons and upheld by the Pope. These are the biblical and lawful reasons why the Moorish will never be free as a pure and clean nation while under the Roman yoke and law. It was designed for Europeans to rule while the Moors suffered and died, trying to be other than themselves, but not knowing how or why. Egyptian commandments before Moses. The Adept Egyptian mystery system not only included all sciences of geometry, medicine, astrology, etc., but also laced with the character building lessons of perfections. These lessons were of self-mastery and focused on developing the God powers which are dormant in every human. Among these sacred laws were the 42 declarations of Mayat of the Comedian Constitution. These promise, excuse me, These became the principal laws of purification for the initiates to reach the epic life. The foundation of these was to honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days would be longer upon the earth land which the Lord thy God, which the great God has given to you. The 42 declarations of Maya list in this chapter can easily be identified with the Ten Commandments through Moses, except they were written nearly 2,000 years before he was born. Also exceptional is the Greek, Roman, and English translation from the first personage of I and self and replaced with thou and thee. Thou, you shall not do. The English word thou is an ecclesiastical prose, meaning a person or thing addressed outside of the principle, whereas I is the principle. The results are devastating because where thou shalt not kill, it leaves ajar the door for the person to kill without atonement. Today, it is mind-blowing for the Moorish to think in terms of themselves as gods or fruit of the great God. Nevertheless, blow it, because the minds they blow are not their own anyway. Remember, no finite mind can comprehend things infinite. More surely, Quran chapter 1. It was their forefathers who established the first religious creed, old time religion, and they could not have accomplished this unless they themselves knew the great God in all his infinite glory. When they, the ancient African forefathers, wrote the Constitution of Mayat, it was based upon the knowledge that sin lies in the wish, in the desire, not the act. before a sin could be committed, I must be the understood principle. Without due consideration, the God principle, then all men will suffer the same fate as did Adam and Eve, the mothers and fathers of the human family. See Adam and Eve. Compare the articles of the Constitution of Maya to the biblical Ten Commandments revealed through nearly 2,000 years prior to the tablets of Moses. Is that where I was supposed to stop? Or was it Ten Commandments? Yeah, it was the Constitution of Islam. And with this recitation, I will turn this meeting over to Dendra Nia Kurtabay for her portion.
Islam, gratitude, God, man. And I will continue. The Constitution of Ma'at. I have not done iniquity. I have not robbed with violence. I have not stolen. I have done no murder. I have done no harm. I have not defrauded offerings. I have not diminished obligations. I have not plunged the netter. I have not spoken lies. I have not snatched away food. I have not caused pain. I have not committed fornication. I have not caused shedding of tears. I have not dealt deceitfully. I have not transgressed. I have not acted guilefully. I have not laid waste the plowed land. I have not been an eavesdropper. I have not set my lips in motion against any man. I have not been angry and wrathful except for a just cause. I have not defiled the wife of any man. I have not defiled the wife of any man, repeated twice. I have not polluted myself. I have not caused terror. I have not transgressed. Repeat twice. I have not burned with rage. I have not stopped my ears against the words of right and truth. Ma'at. I have not worked grief. I have not acted with insolence. I have not stirred up strife. I have not judged hastily. I have not been an eavesdropper. Repeated twice. I have not multiplied words exceedingly. I have not done neither harm nor ill. I have not cursed the king. I have not fouled the water. I have not spoken scornfully. I have never cursed the netter. The netter. I have not stolen. I have not defrauded the offerings of the netter. I have not plundered the offerings to the blessed dead. I have not fletched the food of the infant, neither have I sinned against the nature of my native town. I have not slaughtered with evil intent the cattle of the nature. The Ten Commandments. I am the Lord thy God. Thou have no other gods before me. 41. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven images. Thou shalt not take the name of thy Lord thy God in vain. 7:37 and 41. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Honor thy father and thy mother. 1:12 and 28. Thou shalt not kill. Number 4. Thou shalt not commit adultery. 11:20 and 21. Thou shalt not steal. 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 39 and 40. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. 8:13, 18 and 29. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor house or wife. 13, 20, 21, 29 and 33. Carefully note the change of principles in the King James Bible Version. Needful to say, based upon the principles of the Ten Commandments, authors of the Bible distribute these laws of the land into every court, lodge, church, home, prison, and school, and hotel room. This makes every red-blooded American accountable to knowledge of the law of thou shalt not. Meanwhile, the rulers and the rich fleece its citizenry with justifiable homicide of the poor, economical rape of the working class, and coveting their wealth from neighboring countries. This too is justifiable religion, and the same gods which own the poppy fields and distribute cocaine into the urban interiors of the land are the same gods which punish both the dealer and the addict for thou having another drug god before them. The same gods that manufacture weapons of destruction and sell to the common people are the same that lock up are the same that locked up thy asses for the use of them. uh, Today, in the various courtroom of America, blacks are bewildered into a stupor as to how can they, the Europeans, still kill covered nations and even serve other gods before the Creator and forgive themselves with a slap on the wrist while we go to jail, big time, are executed. Little do Negroes realize the answer rests upon the principles of the Ten Commandments in your Holy Bible. In the European culture, the judges are exalted from forms of wishful masters and honored as gods. See Freemasonry. Therefore, it should not be considered as an unsolved mystery when the laws of the G are enforced when thou goes before him. After all, every thou, y'all, you all is taught the Ten Commandments from childhood. Hence, this gave rise to the phenomenal warning known throughout the Christian world. Ignorance of the law is no excuse because y'all, thou have been commanded exactly what thou shalt not do up in here, America. This brings to light a modern day legal upheaval of fur and feathers about the 10 of the 42 laws old man Moses stole from the 42 of the ancient Comedian Constitution. Did you hear about the European chief judge for the state of Alabama who raised quite a national stink about the constitutionality of his 2,000-pound per marble statue of the Ten Commandments not to be removed from the public state courthouse? That was in the summer of 2003. He even threatened to chain himself to the heavy stone before he would let some Yankee politicians remove the words of God from the state government building and had railed thousands of supporters that agreed with his conviction. However, this author's firm suspicion that if any had really wanted him to remove that rock, the good judge had been slipped the true African origin and history of his beloved 10 Christian commandments, he would have ran, foaming at the mouth, and personally sledgehammered that graven image to fine powder. The Ten Commandments, the demise of Egypt. The question is often asked during the constitutionality of Ma'at, the commandments and the sacred institution of the Egyptian mystery system, with all the world's first wisdom, philosophies, and civilization. How could Egypt allow itself to be conquered by the Greek, Romans, Arabs, French, and British? Over these past 2,000 years, these invading empires have taken turns at raping Egypt, destroying her intellectual and historical resources, knowing Egypt was the light and held the keys to civilization. But why did the great God forsake the cradle of the human family? How could the combined Comedian, upper and lower kingdoms, fall victim to these lesser gods, God-men? Firstly, there is no one answer to this line of inquiry, but there is a great answer among the many. It lies within Kemet's holy instructional system itself. Drew Ali states of those who the sons of men have agreed to raise to sovereign power and sit as a ruler over themselves. The scepter of power is placed in thy hand, but not for thyself, Egypt, were these ensigns given, not meant for thine own, but the good of thy kingdom. Moshe Quran 29, ayahs 1 and 2. The strength of Egypt was in its heart. It must be remembered, Kemet, Egypt, represents the Gnosis of Amexem, a Cuban land, or Africa. Origin of divinity of the human family. First civilization and culture empire founded upon man's harmony with his creator. Established of all sciences, medicines, mathematics, astronomy, botany, philosophy, jurisprudence, art, dentistry, surgery, architecture, and literature and religion. Remove the above from today's European countries, example given, America, Canada, England, Britain, Australia, Germany, Greece, Italy, etc., 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 and this entire world as we know it would crumble into utter darkness. Wisdom, which is the consciousness that man and Allah are one, Moshe Quran, chapter 7, ayah 23, was given to the early comedians by the first physical man, Adamite, Nubian, Moabite. Then temples, sacred schools, and universities of holistic life sprung up from one end of the Nile to the other and throughout Egypt land, producing prophets, angels, and men of wisdom and sciences. However, there was just one wrong to the Egyptian mystery system with its deification curriculum. It was ultimately confined predominantly to the rich, the rulers, example, the pharaoh, the elite, ambassadors, initiates from foreign lands, and people of means. These teachings were restricted, even forbidden from the common people. Example, the poor, handicapped, slave, lower class, aliens, undesirables, John Doe citizens, etc. Although it must be remembered, the average lifespan of comedians were 30 years of age. The Holy Prophet Drew Ali revealed this as a great failing in our history as the enmity between the lion and the lamb. The lamb is the poor people, the lion is the rulers and the rich. Moorish Holy Quran, chapter 46, ayah 3. Speaking of lambs, most theologians fail to point out the ignorance of the lamb. Yet it is true that lambs are humble, meek, gentle, and even cuddly. But lambs are also so dumb until they would be extinct if it weren't for a few self-employed shepherds. Then again, ask any wolf, either shepherd or wolf will tell you that a predator can attack a flock of lambs, devouring one lamb from the flock per day until the entire flock has been consumed. It is in the nature of the lamb to be as stupid as it is innocent. Therefore, although the remaining lambs witness its own demise, the flock will remain in the dining area until the last rack of lamb has been served. Wonder why most black preachers, parentheses, who happen to also be Masons, in the parentheses, are dubbed as shepherds, and their black Christian congregation are called flocks, parentheses, lambs. When it comes to enemy invasion, lambs are simply not prepared to defend against the majestic lion. These lessons of oneness of God and man were originally assigned to the first family, created in a garden in East Africa, Genesis 2, ayahs 7 through 15. Their very first instructions were to eat only the deific and leave the compound trees of good and evil alone. Genesis 16, ayahs 17. See Adam and Eve. But later in his fall, man reinterpreted these orders to mean greed, make babies, and acquire human knowledge. It was during this portion of the fall of man where the survival of the fittest became the law of the earthland. They were supposed to discipline the they were supposed to discipline the will of all men. Later, even so often an Egyptian adept graduate, example given Moses, Melchizedek, Abraham, Solomon, David, and Yehoshua, would violate the secret of the blessed and peculiarly favor them, would attempt to teach these saving powers to fallen humanity, usually as carnal man not wanting the light. These prophets were rewarded with heavy doses of misunderstandings, exile, and death. Moreover, by their very own nationals of whom they had come to save. The adepts and gods of ancient Kemet knew the public was unstable and ungrateful. Man must be given the truth in degrees according to his consciousness at the time. However, the Pharaoh developed secret brotherhoods to withhold these truths. During his illustrious life, Sheikh Sharif Abdul Ali, knowing the opposition to truth embedded in the minds of his Moors, appealed to their Christianized state when he wrote on page 3 of his Holy Quran, these lessons are for all those who love Yehoshua and desire to know his life, works, and teachings. Also, how father can set their house in order, and the mothers are to teach these lessons to your little ones. Today, man still believes the truth is not for everyone, but that is not what Allah has said. Here in America, the European has patterned their educational system upon the identical format as the ancient Egyptian. Harvard, Yale, private academies, and prestigious halls of learning are for the nobles and wealthy. Meanwhile, the public parochial schools, under the guise of these sheepskin rulers, are programmed in continuing miseducation of the masses. The knowledge of self has never been on the educational agenda of the American school system. This is the complete circle of how the rulers and the rich so loved the principle of the Ten Commandments because it allowed the rich to live while the poor still suffer and die. Also, this shows the origin of the esoteric, big I, little U principle being practiced worldwide today. See Freemasonry. It also is an explanation why the Egyptian conquerors sought first to put out the light in Egypt because of its being the capital of the dominion of Africa and having the keys to civilization. Egypt was and is the light of the world. When the light truth goes out in Africa, Egypt, all of humanity is blackened into the cares of the world. Moorish Holy Quran, chapter 47. This is why Noble Drew Ali said, I am the fifth and last prophet, and I am 5 times more powerful than I was before, because he brought the little open book to reveal all secrets to all men. See Holy Quran, page 3, and Revelations 10. He brought these lessons of saving powers to all men, all nations, to be taught universally under love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Moorish Holy Quran, chapter 1 and 11. Then and only then will the lion and the lamb lay down together, and neither will be harmed when morning comes. Moorish Holy Quran 46 and 5. When this is done, America, the new Egypt of the West, will be the eternal light for all humanity, never to be extinguished again. Islam, Islam, Islam. Now we'll turn everything back over to our National Sister Grand Sheik. Islam. Are you there, Godman?
Oh yeah, Islamism is close as a love thought and everything the prophet brought, sister.
Islam.
Gratitude. Islamism without the schism. Oh man. Well, want to give honors to all of the scribes who came forth, and bringing forth these special readings, grand drawing, to give our people some context, and we want to give honors again to our chairman for the Book of Fire, as he always give us a grand insight and lay a great foundation to uplift our people, and for those who may be looking, and watching this special live stream, and you have some differing with what is called religious texts, may you be able to learn and get a drawing from this special drawing that we demonstrate as well. We are not those who will come here to browbeat you over the head with religion. But, in the teaching that we demonstrate, we honor all books of truth, irregardless of what book it is. If it has truth in it, then, we honor it. But we honor most religious texts in their original form before they were tampered with, before man, began to spin the narrative and come up with his own interpretation for these things. Because often these are just the opinions of men. When you deal with a transliteration of works that have been around for centuries and so forth and so on. So we have a respect and equal respect and honor for all of them. So this is why you see us demonstrating that we do universal as we do, because we know everything goes back to ancient Kemet, including, the 10 Commandments that were an extract, as well as not only that, but, there are teachings in Quran, when you understand the translation that they have and you go deeper into the actual transliteration, you will see that the language itself comes straight from Kemet. We can go into Hinduism, Buddhism, Confucianism, and all of these special nations have drawn from Kemet. When we deal with this Moorish Holy Quran that we have, we already know Yehoshua, his 18 missing years in the biblical text, they tell you that, or the Piscean records, they tell you that he left, around 12 when him and his family went into the flight and went into Egypt. And we have those 18 missing years. And they take us up until the time where you go into, the 33, actually was his age, so to speak, from the time period and that gap in between. They say that he ended his ministry at the age of 33 in the Piscean record. We know this is really a Masonic expression. You know, that's not really even meant for the masses because they know that Yehoshua wasn't even crucified, like they said. We also have other records outside of the Piscean records or the Bible that tell you he was not crucified nor killed. You know, though it was made to look if it was such. The Quran tell you that, and then you go into the Gospel of Barnabas and you find out what the Quran was actually saying. If you go into the book that's dealing with the unknown life of Jesus the Christ, you will see that he was actually being initiated in this particular document into the Egyptian mystery system. So all of these particular things here correspond with what it is that we teach in the Moorish Holy Quran. You know, this is not something being made up. We also have other books dealing with the Jesus and the unknown Christ that were found in the Sanskrit manuscripts, the same ones that Levi H. Dowling admitted existed prior to his so-called transcription, you know, of his Aquarian Gospels. And this is where we were the first people to expose that Prophet Noble Drew Ali didn't receive his text from Levi H. Dowling. They already existed. Dowling himself admitted it. You know, it's just the Prophet gave you exactly where he got his from. He said he got it from the Muslims of the East. You know, but everybody want to go with Dowling, and Dowling say he got them from the Akashic records. So go figure. And he didn't even say that. It was actually people that was of his camp that actually published that. You know, so that was just their way of spinning the narrative on where they got this information from. But it was Prophet Noble Drew Ali who put the text in its proper context after receiving it from the Muslims of the East. You know, but yet our people would love to accept that because that's something that goes against the Moorish paradigm. And, you know, that's just the way it is. You know, they would love for it to be that way, but I already exposed that lie and overthrowed it. So you can't bring that to me. You may be able to take it to somebody else, but I know better. I want to go and pick up because it was speaking on certain things. Now we just, what they was bringing forth, our scribes was bringing forth to our family. Because we always go back to show our people certain things. Like I was showing our family earlier, for those who don't know who wasn't here, our Moorish king was reading from the book of Fire, you know, the exhuming of the nation. You know, this is the text that we demonstrate with. I'm telling you, y'all got to get it. Now, I'm going to show you how no truth contradicts another truth. Now, you just heard, you know, the chairman speaking on, you know, the 10 Commandments and the teachings of Ma'at and how, you know, those teachings gave birth to a lot of other teachings. You know, a lot of teachings of law, specifically the 10 Commandments. I want to go into another text that has nothing to do with basically exactly what was being spoke here, but it has, you know, everything to do with the context of, you know, how Moses, you know, and his influence came forth from a lot of the Kemetic teaching, so to speak. This is another source, you know, outside of the source that was just written from our chairman. Now, I'm going to give you two things for our people to pay attention to, you know, though you accept it or not. If you were to go into the time of the biblical narrative, it speaks of two important people being in Kemet. And if you look at them being in Kemet, it would all make sense by the time I get through reading this. And this is just me coming off the head. We know that Joseph or Yusuf or Asaph, you know, if you want to call it, whatever you want to call it, the Egyptian Hebrew name or the English, you know, we know that this is special one that was mentioned was said to actually be in Kemet. And he was honored by being an interpreter of dreams, according to the Bible, according to the Piscean records. Whether you accept the story or not, that don't matter. We just giving you the background on what it said, right? So Joseph is said to be interpreter of dreams, and this is actually what caused him to be accepted into the courts of Kemet, you know, under the Pharaoh, you know, that was on the manifest at that time. Now, we know in order for him to be amongst the people and them to be communicating, they had to have a language they was communicating in. You know, no doubt in my mind. So we would ask ourselves, well, what would have been the language of the Egyptians that were on the manifest during the time, according to the biblical narrative, of one they called Joseph? Like I said, you don't have to believe in the Bible or none of that in order for me to give you this background right here. This is just giving you a hypothetical expression. So if there was a language there, then surely that language, evidence of that language would still be existing. But what Joseph was more honored by the Pharaoh for is his ability, to bring forth interpreting dreams, which in most cases would deal with metaphysics, symbolic, a spiritual expression, which is more than likely in relation to the Pharaoh honoring this because of his being familiar with, the symbolism that was in ancient Kemet at that time. Hieroglyphics have metaphysical meanings. Hieroglyphics have spiritual meanings. Hieroglyphics have allegorical, symbolic, esoteric meanings. And you can derive a whole bunch of wisdom from that if you understand that. So we know that this special type of expression was only demonstrated by the priesthood, or the king or the pharaoh, and he would pass this down to his son. This was information that wasn't taught to the common masses. This is the way it has always been demonstrated. Prior to the 19th century, everybody taught that this language, that the Egyptians demonstrated was different from the hieroglyphics. And that's what we want to deal with. Now, during the time of Moses, when Moses came on the manifest, according to the Piscean records, you don't have to accept, the existence of Moses or whatever, if that's the way you believe, but we just giving our people some background for those who do recognize that. So Moses, according to that special text, would tell you, that there was a receiving of the law, and what was being revealed was being engraved, in stone or on tablets of stone. We know of the development of Proto-Sinaitic, or what some people like to call, some people call it Paleo-Hebrew, or Paleo-Hebrew is actually really, more of the alphabetical expression than, the Proto-Sinaitic is, which deal with pictorials. And what happened is it was this particular pictorial alphabet that was used by the modern day Egyptologists to create what they called, their alphabet chart. They didn't create the symbols because the symbols was already there, but they created an alphabet chart based off the symbols, just like we can do right now. If I wanted to, I can go and look at certain symbols on the pyramid, and I can take, the amount that's equivalent to what we have in the English alphabet and place whatever symbol I choose beside that special alphabet. Next thing you know, I got my own English alphabet based off of the symbols in Medu. Does that mean that the alphabet that I would create is as ancient as the symbols because I used the symbols to create them? No, it don't. That means I took from something that already existed and then I modernized it based upon the present day alphabets that we have right now. That's all Champollion did. He took the Coptic alphabet, the Greek alphabet, as they like to call it, and he placed symbols on the side of it, and then they came up with their own measure. I'm saying all that to say this. It was the hieratic that laid the foundation for all alphabetical systems as we demonstrate from a linguistic standpoint. And I'm going to show you this in a minute. And I'm coming forth from this particular book. And it's going to touch on some of the stuff dealing with Moses that's going to correspond to the teaching that was given to the chairman. It's called the Ancient Egyptian Universal Writing Modes. And you're going to see the difference between hieratic and the difference between Egyptian hieroglyphs.
is what he gonna give you. This is written by Mustafa Gadala. You know, he's a native-born Egyptian. He's not a European people. You see? He's a native-born Egyptian. And not only that, he is most definitely authentic. And I want to give you background on Mustafa Gadala. I'm going to read this to y'all before I go into it. The brother Mustafa Gadala is an Egyptian American independent Egyptologist who was born in Cairo, Egypt in 1944. He holds a Bachelor of Science degree in civil engineering from Cairo University. Gadala is the author of 22 published internationally acclaimed books about various aspects of the ancient Egyptian history and civilization and its influences worldwide. He is the founder and chairman of the Tehuti Research Foundation, www.egypttehuti.org, an international U.S.-based nonprofit organization dedicated to ancient Egyptian studies. He is also the founder and head of the online Egyptian Mystical University, www.egyptianmysticaluniversity.org. From his early childhood, Gadala pursued his ancient Egyptian roots with passion through continuous study and research. Since 1990, he is dedicated and concentrated all his time to researching and writing. So this is a grand source to draw from, a native-born Egyptian who has went into, these documents and these texts and are correcting presently the European. That's what all his works really do. They correcting the European. So this run line in line with what the chairman was saying in relation to that aspect, as Mustafa Gadala is the one that's exposing what has been done. That's why we use his material. Most people that's dealing with Egyptology, they're going to go against it. They're going to shy from it because he does not agree with the modern day narrative that's being spun, of saying that, hieroglyphics was the language of the Egyptians. He don't teach that. So a lot of them, they going to try to go against this brother's material based on that. But I'm going to say what I always say, the general opinion of men will never alter the nature of the truth. Who you going to listen to? A native-born Egyptian, that come from that culture, or a European Johnny come lately that came up with something that he made up? That's on you. So I want to come from the page. This would actually be, let me make sure I'm giving you the right page. Okay, yeah, this would actually be page 189. This is just the opening of an introduction. It says, Part 5, Out of Egypt, Diffusion and Patterns to Asia and Africa. And all this is dealing with language, family. So listen closely and carefully. Chapter 16. It says, Hebrew and Moses of Egypt. It said, next we discuss the diffusion patterns of the ancient Egyptian vocalic spoken and alphabetical writing forms in surrounding neighbors in Asia, starting with the Hebrews as a member of the Semitic language family. Now notice this is dealing with the vocalic / spoken. So that means that the Egyptians had a language that they spoke. They had a language that they wrote in. So don't let nobody tell you their language was just dead and that's it. Don't let them lie to you like that. So it says Moses in writing. It says Isaac Taylor in his book, and that's another source you can go to that he's quoting. Isaac Taylor in his book, The History of the Alphabet, Volume 1, page 145, wrote, before the Hebrews went down into Egypt, the art of writing was unknown to them. When they came out of Egypt, they possessed it. So this is letting you know that those who are called Hebrews, that came up with an alphabetical system, they didn't have an alphabetical system until they went into Kemet. This is what Isaac Taylor is saying. Mustafa Gadala is quoting him. It says on page 149 of the same book, volume 1, Isaac Taylor wrote, it will be observed that the names of the Semitic letters are without exception consistent with the suggestion origin of the alphabet in the Nile Delta, right? So whether you are looking at the pictorials or even what they like to call Paleo-Hebrew, sometimes they call the pictorials that too, but the actual alphabet that really come through the Phoenician line, they actually have these in the Egyptian. If you watch my videos and you've seen me and you've been following me, then you know the alphabet I'm referring to because I showed it various times. And most people not even familiar with this particular alphabet. But anyway, it says ancient tradition ascribes the authorship, it says, of the Pentateuch, the first 5 books of the Old Testament, to Moses, right? It says, then the Lord said to Moses, write this on a scroll as something to be remembered and make sure that Joshua hears it. It says, according to the Bible, the Pharaoh who was killing Hebrew children to keep the Egyptian purity, accept baby Moses into his residence. And as a result, Moses was adopted and brought up and educated in Egyptian surroundings. Now we know in the Piscean record, they say Moses was learning all the ways, in the wisdom of the ancient Egyptians. That's what they, Mustafa Gadala is quoting on here indirectly. So it's later we learned that after killing an Egyptian, Moses escaped into Sinai and hid among Hebrew tribes. Now we know Sinai, Mount Sinai is known today, a portion, Sarabat el-Kadem. Sarabat el-Kadem is where the Sinai script was said to be found. And you can see today tablets that are still there. We showed that to our family many times as well. It says, after spending about 25 years hiding in the wilderness, fearful for his life, the biblical Moses began the preparation for a comeback. Strangely enough, his fear for his life was totally gone. And he was not worried about confronting the Pharaoh. Then it says, below is shown one of the countless numbers of proto-Sinaitic scripts that are just no different than the letter forms found in the populated areas of Egypt. And it's actually showing, these particular drawings. So we can see anaglyphs, but we can also see a surrounding alphabet, similar to what they like to call Paleo-Hebrew, similar to what they call, Hecopta or Coptic. You can see the similarities. But it says Moses did not need any help to communicate directly with the Egyptian Pharaoh in his court, for all spoke the same language of Egypt. You see, so surely if Moses, being a biblical patriarch, so to speak, surely if he came up and was learning the wisdom of the Egyptians, he knew the language of the Egyptians. This explains, how it is that there was a development of what we call Proto-Sinaitic, Proto-Canaanite, and why it came forth as it did. But surely Moses, having this knowledge, passed this knowledge on to his successors, right? But it says the account in the Old Testament, this is Moses and Moab. The account in the Old Testament of the failure of Moses to reach the promised land, his death and his burial in the unmarked grave is another curious episode. We are told initially that when his followers complained of thirst, Moses used his rod to smite a rock and bring forth water. It was called the water of Meribah, a location in the north center of Sinai and south of Canaan. It was this action that would later haunt him. It says sometime later, when the Israelites were camped on the banks of the Jordan near Jericho and opposite of Canaan, Moses learned, according to the book of Deuteronomy, that he was to be denied the opportunity to cross the river no matter how hard he pleaded. And it quotes, I pray thee, let me go over and see the good land that is beyond Jordan, that goodly mountain in Lebanon. The Lord said, speak no more to me of this matter. Thou shalt not go over to this Jordan. So this was the Most High telling Moses, don't question them, about going into the promised land. Basically, they would go. he wasn't going to be able to go. He wasn't going to be able to cross over, right? So it says later in the book of Deuteronomy, it said we have an account of the actual death of Moses. It says, and the Lord said to him, get thee up into this mountain, Abiram. And it's crazy because that actually looked like it's spelling what, Meribah backwards. It says, unto the mount of Nebo, which is in the land of Moab. That is over against Jericho. And behold the land of Canaan, which I give unto the children of Israel for a possession. And die in the mount because you have trespassed against me. So it's saying that Moses basically is somewhere up in the mountains. It says that the children of Israel at the waters of Meribah and Kadesh in the wilderness of Zin, thou shalt not go thither into the land which I give the children of Israel. Right? So it goes on. It said in the next chapter, we will present more details about the Egyptian colony of Moab. So Moabites are the colony that is referring to, these were ancient Egyptians, at least you can say a mixed multitude, but they were definitely known as Egyptian colony, the Moabites, the Moab. So it says, and its central influence in the diffusion of Egyptian alphabetical writing system into Asia. That's what his next chapter is going to be dealing with. But it says the two writing forms, old and new, and I want y'all to hear this carefully. It says, so what form of writing did Moses, who spent his life in Egypt, use? Logic and evidence points to ancient Egyptian, right? This is what Moses was demonstrating. Isaac Taylor, in his book, The History of the Alphabet, Volume 1, page 145, writes, listen carefully. It says the internal evidence points to the same conclusion. The forms of Semitic letters were not derived from monumental hieroglyphics, but from cursive hieratic. You see? That's powerful. So it says, it is also worth repeating that the British Egyptologist Alan Gardiner, in his book, Egyptian Grammar, page 3, stated, the entire vocalic system of Old Egyptian may indeed be provided to have reached a stage resembling that of Hebrew, or modern Arabic. So they're telling you that through these different styles, the way that it was written, how they basically ended up coming out basically similar to what Hebrew and Arabic look like. And those are not pictures in the form of dealing with people, places, or things. Those are actual alphabets when you deal with Hebrew and Arabic. But it's saying they was Egyptian reached that original state, and that come through the hieratic, that come through the Demotic, that come through Hikapta. All of those are Egyptian language. They also have what we call Iberic Egyptian, which looks spot on exactly like, what is known as Paleo Hebrew. But it says, for sake of writings, the Unicode style, just like ancient Egypt, was used and was revived in the 20th century to become the Hebrew language as the sole style of a newfound state of Israel in 1948. Here again is a distinctive language is being awarded a new state. It say it is however recognized that while the Unicode style was, is, and used for sacred scripts, there was another cursive script with rounded alphabetical forms that were used for non-religious scripts. This same as in the Egyptian traditions. It was decided by the powers to be to forego this style in the modern times. Modern Hebrew references therefore speak of two styles, the early Hebrew and the classical or the square Hebrew, archaic and traditional being rounded and circular, cursive and Unicode square styles. The word Hebrew comes from the Egyptian apru, which is A-P-R-U, which means to express, to come across. So we see that there's a strong word here. Our brother Mustafa Gadali is dealing with the root apru. And I seen something similar to this because they try to speak of Ephraim, in the Piscean records as being in relation to dealing with Ebru. But in the Hebrew, in the parts of the Egyptian language, is apriru, which means to express or to come across. In Hebrew, it's not strange. It means to cross over from one region into another. It don't represent a race of people. It represents the action that was taken by that special race. Hebrew, to cross over from unrighteousness to the righteousness, from darkness into light, from ignorance into enlightenment. You know, that's what Hebrew represent. The race of the people represent the Israelites or the Yisrael. Okay. So it says, assembled below are the inscriptions most proclaimed as being Hebrew from various locations in Palestine, Israel region. It is obvious that such letter forms are found exactly in ancient Egypt long before, during, and after the times of such inscriptions. For reference to letter forms in ancient Egypt, refer to chapter 12. It says of this book, as well as Petrarch's book of formation of alphabet. Below is the Hebrew Gazir calendar in the 10th century BCE. And so this is the language that Brother Mustafa Gadala is referring to. You know, and you know, this is the same as what is called Iberic Egyptian. But this is what is known by some as Paleo Hebrew. You see, even though sometimes they're called a pictorial Paleo, I know the difference between the two. You know, he also shows here where it says below is the Hebrew inscription of Siloam Tana in Jerusalem in 700 BC. Below are marks found in Samaria. Below are Mason marks found in Megiddo. Below are Mason marks found in Lachish. Because some people talk about what they call the Lachish, and they call that Lachish script. But this is still really Egyptian. It says shown below are inscribed from Ahab's pace on both sides. These are the actual writings that have been accepted as Hebrew that were also originated, you know, by Egyptians. That's the truth of the matter, family. That's why so many of the words in Hebrew alone are very close. You know, when it comes to transliteration, like the name Cam and Kim. So a lot of people don't even know that they had Egyptian inscriptions like this. You see, and I've been showing this for the longest. And I'm gonna show you what I'm talking about right now, just for the sake of doing it, you know, so that our family can see this again. Want to make sure that our people that are looking can follow what it is that we showing them. I'm gonna show you that particular writing on Egyptian monuments. Let's see, it may be this one right here. Okay, yeah, I think it is. Here it is right here. So we're going to show it to you again real quick. So when I show you what I show you, you can see what I'm talking about. This particular writing right here, look at it close. That's being called Paleo Hebrew in Hebrew, right? A lot of people don't like to hear this, but we're going to give the people the truth. So here it is right here. Let me share my screen. That same script now. Let's see here. That same script. And we give honors to the script because we also rebuilt our present day script, you know, in a similar manner. So you can see this monument. It has anaglyphs on it, what a lot of people like to call hieroglyphs. You know, to us, this is the metaphysical formula. How do we get it like this here? Because that's the way we taught to read it in our Moorish Holy Quran, like Yehoshua did. But this at the bottom here is the same thing I was just showing you in the book. You see? And there are many like this. Same script, inscription that's written on the Moabite stone. This is the Moabite stone right here. If you tap that in, in your Google, you can see it is actually made of the same material as this right here, the original Moabite stone, but that's just a expression to show. So we developed our Moabic Moorish script off of the Iberic Egyptian, and this is the Moorish script. This is our language, the way we write, you know, and a lot of this is gonna be coming out, you know, once we begin to put everything together. But that's the present day expression of our language. But here, right here again, is the same thing Brother Mustafa Gadal is showing you. So this is Egyptian, another Egyptian script that's been claimed by somebody else to be, you know, Paleo Hebrew or whatever, but it existed in Kemet before. It existed amongst those people. How do we know this? Because when you look at, you know, the same script right here, you can see this same script. That's Moab. You seen the brother Mustafa Gadala talking about the Moabite being an Egyptian colony. So you see the same alphabet here, you know, it's being demonstrated right there. The same alphabet, same thing demonstrated right here now. So it was adopted into the language of the people of Moab. See, it was adopted. There it is, Silham, which they referred to, you know, in the book. You know, in fact, I'm gonna show that to you in a second here. Let me stop it real quick and I'll open it back up because I want you to see this here. Let me blow my little piece up here. Okay, there we go, right there. You see where they say that come from? Where Mustafa Gadala say this particular inscription come from? Below the Hebrew inscription from Siloam in the tunnel in Jerusalem, 700 BCE. You see that writing? So this is showing you that these ones adopted. Now let me go back and present my screen again. See, we don't be making this stuff up. This stuff already existed before I was born. I'm just making the connection, that's all. So here it is, the Moabite, the first, Siloam, and then it goes on to Be'er, Sidon. You know, all these places are biblically mentioned. Even in Greece, what they call in the Greek alphabet, it actually goes back to, you know, this particular time period. It also came into the Carthaginians, adopting it. Malta, Marseilles, these were later the Thugger kingdom. All this right here is Moorish territory too. These are ancient Moors, Constantine. You know, what they call in Greece, you know, is really Phoenician. Phoenicians should have been here, but even though they still have it up here at the top. So this Phoenician script that was found in Moab and all these different countries here, and they adopted them and used them. Notice that they compared, you know, the box Hebrew, a later form of Hebrew, to these things to give them some type of legitimacy, so to speak, you know, show the connection. So all of these people use this as special style of writing. And that's why we adopted the similar style of the writing. And this is Punic right here, which is also a more of what they call Libico-Berber. You know, Libico-Berber and all that goes into the line of this. So this was the most universal portion of the language. We know Phoenician takes us back to Sumer. Sumer is a seed of Cush. There's a connection between Cush and Kemet. So once you understand all of that right there, you'll see why they talked about it originally being one language. You know, so what I did, you know, is went through here after digging deep, and I put everything in the proper perspective. You know, I went and took the hieratic language and I abjaded it. I put it in its proper order. This is what it looked like out of order right here on this side. And I took it and I put it in the abjad order, A, B, G, D, you know, and we go on and on and on. We're going to get into this in a second too, about these different letter H's and all of that. But I'm running this down as a recap for our people. This is the Demotic language, which come after hieratic. I also abjaded that. See the A, B, G, D, all the way down, right? And then you have what your guy put together here, old Champollion, when he put these pictures beside these, Coptic alphabets and came up with what he now called, his so-called decipherment. It's sad how people can't even see through that. And the same thing was done here. When you deal with Meroitic, they dealt with pictorials. They put their own values on the side of it with the numbers and so forth and so on. But we found out that this Meroitic is real close to Iberic Egyptian as well. So these are pictures that were took by those who were demonstrating as Hebrews. And there's that same alphabet I just showed you that they was calling Phoenician. They call it Paleo-Hebrew, see it? And they also call this Paleo-Hebrew. That's why I was telling you, even though this is Paleo-Hebrew, they call this that too, the pictorial, which they adopted from Kemet. So these symbols right here mean totally different things than they mean right here in Champollion's alphabet. So if we were going to go with one being closer to the ancient Egyptians, this one would actually be closer because it's older than what Champollion created, right? But this is not the way the Egyptians dealt with their alphabet. You see? That's what the people have to get the drawing on. Once they get that, it's going to be easy for them to understand. So if this is older than what Champollion created, and we know that it is older than what he created, then you ask yourself the question then, well, if I come over here and I look at these symbols here, if they were the same, they should match up if I see the same symbols in here that's in the other one. But that's just not the case. Now, there were many other different pictorial expressions, but here's that alphabet again I pointed out to you all. And notice this is called Karya. All of these are the same charts right here, basically, with the alphabets in them at least. This is Mizradan. Mizra, that's the name for Egypt. Karyadan, right? Then I just put the one that says straight Egyptian or Cretan, Akkadian in Spanish, and you can look at the same alphabet, in this ancient Spanish that's in the Carian, and the Carian, which is in the Cretan. And then when you go into the Roman, all the way back to prehistory in Egyptian up here. This is Egyptian alphabets. The same one that I just showed y'all. The same alphabet that they were calling Phoenician. Most people don't even know about this alphabet right here. But a lot of these alphabets here you can actually find in Demotic and Hieratic. A lot of these particular expressions here, if you got a good eye to look for. So here it is again. Another one of those charts. See, Carian alphabets again, right? But they are from Egypt. So these are different charts, but all of them are saying that this particular writing, which most of our people ain't never seen before now, they have no idea. All they know about is, the hieratic through what we've been teaching, and the Demotic and the Coptic and what they think hieroglyphics is, but they have never seen this Egyptian alphabet. This is a whole nother drawing here. We went into it a couple of times. So when you see that and you go over now to Iberic Egyptian, you see it says Egyptico. Yeah. And this is the same alphabet here. And if you look, this is actually consisting of what we call Abjad in its root. And it also has to do with the vowels, A, E, I, O, U. And U is interchangeable with V in sound shifting, right? And then it goes on with the other alphabets, the L, the R, the M, the N, the S. And I put this in order as you will see. See the B, Bay, B, By, Bo, Boo, Day, Di, Die, Do, Do, Gay, Gi, Guy, Go, Go. So that's A, B, G, and D. That's Abjad, family. They actually put the D there, out of order, but this is what they call the Emerald Tablets of Tehuti. So when you speak of that unical style, that box-like style and all of that right there, and you wonder where that alphabet came from, this is it. You see? Another expression where I actually put everything in order. I isolated the vowels to show you vowels come from us too and not the European like they told you. You see? A, right? A-E-I-O-U, baby, bi, bo, boo. That's the B. See, I got A, B, and G, gay, geek, guy, go, goo. G, right? And then they, D, die, do, do. Because the D is interchangeable with T. They showing you that. Here, see the D and the T? Tay, D, die, do, do. This is Abjad. This is a root in the Abjad. And I put all this together in Abjad order. So again, this is Egyptian, Tardiso, Iberico, Phoenico, and then here's the actual translation. Same thing here, Tardiso, Iberico, Phoenico. Still got a little Latin-like expression in it, but you can see it, for what it is. And you can see here where we adopted this, as our Moorish alphabet. We adopted our Moorish alphabet from this. This is the Moorish version based off the Iberic Egyptian right here that we're dealing with. You see? And we went through each and every breakdown. Here it is where we isolated everything. It's called the Medu, Re, and Mari. Praise be to Allah for giving us the ability to bring this forth right here, right? And then we have, the expression of each one of them. Ali, Bey, Gibraltar, Day, Huda, Washa, Zaka, Haman, Tarika, Yahya, Kaaba, Lahima, Makkah, Nun, Sultana, Aya, Futa, Saba, Kadama, Raha, Shakha, Tafa, Tawa, Khalafa, Dulfikar, Dama, Zara, and Ghania. These are our alphabets. Like I say, we working on bringing all these things into fruition, and we adopted and adapted from the Iberic Egyptian. You see, and this is how it again is written. The Muabic Mari script, Medu, Re, and Mari. This is it, But that's a whole nother measure. I'm showing that right there in the light of showing that you can never say the language of our ancestors is dead, because we always bringing them on the manifest. Now, I give you a prime example of what I say when I say people don't know, about Egyptian. Like they would say this is Greek, but we know that's Old Nubian, right? They would say this is Old Nubian is Coptic, and they would be correct in saying that, but it'll never be Greek. So we know an Old Nubian existed before, that European came up there and tried to hijack the language and call it Coptic. You see what I'm saying? Like, we can't make this stuff up, fam. Look at that. Every nation adopted that same alphabet, so it was only right for the Moors to demonstrate their thing too in this new era in time, keeping in line with what was already demonstrated. You ain't always got to reinvent the wheel, even though we have our own style of writing. See, this is called an Egyptian language that most people don't know of. This is called Egyptian script right here. It's different from the other, right? This is called an Egyptian script, right? This is called an Egyptian script. Go ahead, brother.
I don't mean to cut your wisdom more, but that looks like the Adinkas. A lot of that lettering looks like the Adinkas, the symbols that have metaphysical meanings. That they like a
lot of this right here is look more like what they call the stanzas of what they call Sinza. Some people say it's metaphysics. Some people call it metaphysics in some of it too, but I'm just showing the different styles of the writing. These symbols, if you look at, the Sinza, a lot of these symbols are in there. Because remember, we talked about Sinza as basically being even connected to hieratic, you know. But they call it the mystery language. But I'm just showing them these different scripts, and really why these are saying Egyptian, because these are the different dialects of what they call Coptic. You see, it's 7 different dialects in Coptic, but that's a whole nother teaching. But these are all different alphabets and different setups. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, we give honors to you though, brother Bati Bey, for that drawing. You can also see here where the Europeans back then, I think this may be Adolf Ehrman chart. Here where he was trying to compare his to Demotics, you know. But then if you look down here at the bottom, you see that same style that was found on the monuments that I was showing earlier. See, it says Egyptian, inscription Egyptian. So this was Egyptian before the Hebrews or even the Phoenicians adopted it. So when people be talking about reading Phoenician and, you know, Hebrew and so forth and so on, they really talking about the same thing that was demonstrated here. See what I'm saying? Everything come out of Kemet. I know people hate to hear it, but it's just the truth of the matter, family. We can't get around it. You know? And this is actually this was the 7th dialect of the Hecopter here. You know, Coptic. This is you heard me talking about the Mudar script that Ibn Khaldun, the Muslim, spoke on. This is Mudar right here. This is called original Arabic. You notice it ain't got no vowels and none of that stuff on. This Himyar. It's Himyaritic. And you know, the Himyar script is Sabian. Both of these scripts, this is Sabian, this is Egyptian. Mudar is said to be also another form of Medu Neter. So when you look at Demotic here on the Rosetta Stone that they talking about, and look at this Mudar script, you can see they're basically the same thing. You see, this is why I tell you that Arabic itself evolved out of the Demotic script. Because if Mudar is the original Arabic that we showed you here, if this is the original Arabic and the Quran was originally written in Mudar, you can see the similarity. It just got the vowels in it. Take them vowels out, like you see right here in the Mudar, and you see this right here is the same as you see the Demotic that was written on the Rosetta Stone. Uncanny. Look at that. You know, I can point out letters in here. I'm gonna give you a prime example of what I'm talking about. You see this 3 looking symbol right here? There's 3, and then this is Demotic, right? You can go right here, you know, and if you were to look, you know, in the Arabic, you can find the same type of symbols, like right here. Only difference is they just turned it horizontal. You see what I'm saying? So just like the people of Meru took their symbols, you know, or the people of these different cultures, you know, dealing with Paleo Hebrew, took the symbols and put different meanings on. The same thing the Arabs did to evolve the language when they did it with the Mudar. We can go on and on about it, but you know, these are the things we're talking about. And this is actually too, this is Arabic and Mauritanian Arabic used in Morocco, used actually by the Hausa people. This is Mauritanian, you know, Arabic. They would call this, you know, Hassaniya. That's what they call it. See, it's in the Abjad order though. A, B, G, D, H, V, you know, it's in proper order. Y'all see how I dealt with a changing of the F with the letter P and H when I was demonstrating in that incorrect transliteration we were dealing with in the E.A.R.S papyri. You know, that's where I got that expression from, along with the other Kemite drawings as well. So I wanted to bring that forth, you know, and just make that plain with our family so they can see what it is that we demonstrate. Once they understand that, they understand everything came out of Kemet. And so the brother Mustafa Gadala closed with saying, to sum up the sameness of the Hebrew writing system to the ancient Egyptian system as outlined in chapter 11 of this book, the same configuration of the alphabet in the same order A, B, G, D. The same letter forms were present in Egypt much earlier than Moses, are consistent with the letter forms in Egypt utilizing various writing tools and surfaces, as was so also evident in Petrie's work. Present-day Hebrew consists of 22 alphabetical characters. It is recognized among the Hebrew linguists that the original alphabet was 28 letters, and that the missing 6 letters were in use in the past. These last 6 letters in the Egyptian alphabet have a sonic twin letter in the top of the 22. It says, therefore, these last 6 letter forms have the same letter form of each primary letter plus an added dot or bar to distinguish each from its prime sonic twin. Western academics have always confused such distinctions in these last 6 letters of the 28 letter alphabet. The same orientation in ancient Egyptian alphabetical writing system written from right to left. 2 styles, unical and cursive ligature, which I showed them things, yeah. It says the same phonetic markings include vowel sounds are written as dots and dashes under the text. Different combinations of dots and dashes signify different types of vowel sounds, which are used in scriptures, children's books, and also poetry when exact vocalization is needed for the liturgical and musical text. The vocalic values of some letters have been changed in accordance with the phenomenon sound shift, when some particular letters are hard to pronounce by certain particular groups of people. Sameness of Egyptian prototypical or interconnected lexicon, grammar, and syntax. The Hebrew language complies exactly with all the linguistic characteristics of the much older ancient Egyptian language, which was detailed in chapter 15 of this book. Such include, but are not limited to, the ancient Egyptian prototypical, interconnected lexicon, grammar, and syntax. These include the significance of verbs, verb roots, verb stems, and verb classes and structures. It says the conjunction scheme for verbs and Egyptian prototypical etymology and lexicon, the word formation derivation from a 3-letter root, which signifies a certain general concept into numerous patterns through the use of intermediate vowels and prefixes, infixes, and suffixes, etc., in addition to types and structures of syllables, as well as syntax, word order, and sentence types. Affinities and characteristics of the ancient Egyptian language are described by Egyptologist Alan Gardiner in his book Egyptian Grammar on page 2. So I love the way Mustafa Gadala quoting the European and beating them up with their own information. So he's not quoting this for support. He's quoting this, to basically show you a whole totally different drawing, so to speak. It says the Egyptian language is related not only to the Semitic tongues, Hebrew, Arabic, Aramaic, Babylonian, etc., but also to the East African languages, Gala, Somali, etc., and the Berber idioms of North Africa. See, I was talking about Libico Berber. See, this is why all these different nations think that they can use their alphabet to decipher Medu Neter, because each one of their languages actually have a derivative or loan words from the Medu Neter. You see, it don't surprise me, but they don't have the mindset to unite the languages, and that's the true way to being able to reconstruct, what has been lost. It says its connection with the latter groups. It says together known as the Hamitic family is a very thorny subject, but the relationship to the Semitic tongues can be fairly accurately defined. In general structure, the similarity is very great, and Egyptian shares the principal peculiarity of Semitic in that its word stems consist of combinations of consonants, as a rule of 3 in number, which are theoretically at least unchangeable. Grammatical inflection and minor variations of meaning are contrived mainly by ringing the changes on the vowels. Internal vowels, it says, through affixed endings also are used for the same purpose. In this chapter, we have discussed the diffusion patterns of ancient Egyptian vocalic speaking, and alphabetical writing forms into surrounding neighbors of Asia, starting with the Hebrews as members of the Semitic language family. In the next chapter, we will continue discussing the diffusion patterns of the ancient Egyptian vocalics spoken in alphabetical writing forms in order surrounding neighbors, into other surrounding neighbors in Asia. So, it goes and continue to show, actually showing even some of the ones that I had here. Some of the same symbols that I had here, right? It goes on and on, family, just showing you different charts in this particular work. That's the Iberian Egyptian that I was pointing out earlier as well. Mustafa Gadala has it in his work. All these charts out here. All that being said, when we get into dealing with the hieratic family, a lot of this may be fast paced, but if you go back and listen to these classes and you are attentive, if you really want to learn it, you can learn it. But for those who don't have the desire or the drive to learn it, you're going to always be confused when it comes to dealing with this information. I want to give honors to the scribes because they were here and they bore witness and they know everything that we speaking. Now, it sounds like to somebody that we actually speak in another language, which we are, when we mention these things, but the scribes know exactly where we coming from because we done been through all of this. And this is actually more like a recap using the hammer repetition. Don't mind doing it, when it comes to these special things. But all is well. So I said all of that just to show the origins of the language and show how we get to the time of dealing with the Medu, Re, and Kemet, the progression that we made. And I want to share this particular portion as well because this is what we're dealing with presently. And we're going to stick with this particular drawing a little bit. And this is dealing with the Skill for Scribe document, Poe. Let's see here. I want to go up here because we often have questions from our family on this, the different sound. Going back up here to the beginning. This is our best friend that we have, one of the most thoroughly written out documents to date dealing with the hieratic. Even though we have a whole bunch of paper, this is one of the most comprehensive, drawings, and we came back around to this, and I want to get into, the exact expression here, and they tell you even right here, when you deal with transliteration, what transliteration is. Transliteration is a representation of symbols of one writing system in another writing system. You see, it says there's standard convention by which the phonetic values of Egyptian glyphs are represented by characters of the Latin alphabet, sometimes with modifications to eliminate ambiguity. It says, in this book, the transliteration of Egyptian glyphs is always shown in bold, italic face in front of clearly distinct from that used for English text. The phonetic components of the Egyptian writing system represent consonants and some long vowels, except as they can be reconstructed from Coptic. See what I'm saying? Listen to what it's saying. A late form of the language written in Greek characters and vocalic values of Egyptian words are largely unknown. So they showing you how Champollion, built up his particular lexicon. But it says, thus the transliteration of Egyptian words produces unpronounceable clusters of consonants such as T, PT, Hetep, Seshet, Sejim, all these particular expressions. It says, a convention has been adopted in order to permit the oral discussion of Egyptian words. Usually a short E vowel is inserted as required between consonants in order to make the words pronounceable. This is one of the things that E. Wallace Budge, chose to do as well. It says, thus the transliteration shown above will be pronounced as Tet, Pet, Hetep, Sesh, and Sejim. It says in transliteration, it says in the transliteration scheme, the consonants of W, B, F, M, N, R, H, S, K, G, T, and D can be pronounced as in English. The consonants with diacritical marks can be distinguished in the following ways. This is the portion where I be trying to get our Moorish kin when I be saying go into, hold up, I'm gonna stop sharing this to show you this. When I tell you you can actually learn them H sounds that we just seen by going into your Quran. Because see, it mentions if you go to the top, there's a connection between the H and the K, but notice most of them are being stated, you know, from the back of the neck. So it's showing you how you pronounce those as special things. So when I show you this, let me share the screen real quick. Because I use Egyptian Arabic because Egyptian Arabic is demonstrated in the Coptic dialect. So yeah, when you come here, if you understand that all of these are coming from the back of the neck, and it tell you a voice H, a sound is voiced by vibrating the vocal cords with air force from the lungs. Ha, you know, ha, right? Ha. Try to get down off into that demonstration, but you go deeper into the guttural, you know, with a raspier sound produced in the throat, and this is ha, ha. You see? So it's pushing out a K and a H at the same time. This is ha, ha, you know, but it's distinguished from this, but a softer form is what I like to say, a softer form of the former, right? And you just practice that, you know, so, you know, those are different things that we wanted to bring to the manifest. If you notice also, I'm going to show you again too, right here. Okay, hold up. Give me 1 second here. If you notice right here also on the chart, you can actually see where they state the T from. See it right there from the nasal, D, D, and see they showing the T is interchangeable with the D. See, having all these tools ain't nothing if you don't know how to use them. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, when we go back to this actual documentation here, you know, we can go on with the rest of them, and they tell you how to pronounce them in choice, and judge. It's showing you how to demonstrate it through each and every one of them. You know, so we want to really learn those things is what I'm getting at in relation to dealing with mastering the sound shifting and also lining them up, you know, in such a way to where you become familiar with the expression, because we already know that this document has a wealth of information. It's showing you the biliterals or bilaterals, triliterals or trilaterals. It's showing you, you know, what are determinatives. But, you know, the main thing now is knowing how to really pronounce, you know, these measures, and also identified, you know, the differences. Because we know these are all the H's, but also having that state of pronunciation is, you know, a grand matter. We also have a clear expression. Actually, I used this actual document here to create the hieratic measure we was typing in with, you know, so because of how refined they are, so to speak. But this is very important because you also have a lot of the you can go down in here and look at these things and become more familiar with the language. You know, and the more familiar we become with this, the better it is when we look at hieratic papyri to vet it, you know, because on our own time, you know, if we come across a particular papyri, we want to know what it is. Now we have the ability, the knowledge on how to go in it. And this is going to be something that we have to do on our own, you know, not from what we just have to come and say, Mo, go do this. You more should be demonstrating this on their own once we have this knowledge. Because if you don't use it, you're going to lose it. You know, so you pull out you some hieratic papyri, you know, and look at it, some of it, and go through it and do the vetting, and that's what's going to refine you. This here is just informative information that we give, and we do exercises and so forth and so on. These exercises prepare us to be able to go out there and go into that documentation on our own. Unless we just seeking to be familiar with it and we don't plan on going into it, that's a different drawing. But I'm just saying, if you really want to know it, you got to go into it. But anyone that hasn't went through the full process of knowing this, it's just one is not qualified to even really deal with it. Less knowing trying to challenge what's being said. How you gonna challenge something that you don't know? And that's what our people been doing. So we want to give honor to our family. That's what our homework gonna be really consistent of, getting into the actual expression and the sound. I just wanted to show our family the history, dealing with the language, and go through it again so that our family have a clear conception of where we coming from. This ain't stuff we just making up, coming up with. And I think Brother Marvin Edwards Bay may have his book, the writing. This right here actually prepare you to be able to write. So once we get through learning, if you want to deal with the hieratic, you're gonna have to know how to write it. But they said it here in the introduction. It says, for most students of Egyptology, hieratic, the cursive form of Egyptian writing, is learned long after the basics of Middle Egyptian grammar have been mastered. The study of hieratic text is specialty subject within a specialized field of ancient language study. So it may seem at first odd to think of a writing primer for the study of hieratic. However, hieratic was a central aspect of the literacy of ancient Egypt. The false impression that Egyptian texts were written predominantly in hieroglyphs is seriously misleading, and only due to the modern scholarly convention of publishing and teaching hieratic texts in an artificial hieroglyphic transcription. You see, so it says the Egyptian language is therefore quite obvious and long overdue. It goes on, but the main thing is, you see, they call the hieroglyphs are artificial text, as far as the way the Europeans demonstrated. But everything else, come through the hieratic. So that being said, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna open up the floor to the scribes, so we can take this demonstration where we need to be and close it out and get ready for the homework. Islam, you there, scribes?
Islam, we're here.
All right.
Is-
Questions? Islam.
Islam. Well, I guess if I did have a question, you said our homework gonna consist of. Could you go over that again? So you're gonna have us to try to do the sound and the book, Dr. Shaheed, what you just had up, the writings. I think that's the one. I think the goddess got it, but they never did send mine, so I don't know. No, that E.A.R.S. We found it on E.A.R.S. website or something.
Yeah.
But they never did send mine, so they had to refund my money. So I don't know if I'll be able to get that one, that particular one. I don't know what happened because we've been waiting almost over a month, about going on 5 months. So they had to refund my money back, what I had paid for it. So maybe I can look for another one somewhere. And I think Brother Bati Bey was saying he was trying to find that particular one too. So God, man, if you find out anything, let me know, because I didn't get, I thought we thought it was coming and they never could get it to me. So Islam on that. And the only question I would have when you was talking about the homework would be, are you gonna have us trying to do the sound? You say the sound shifting or
Well,
what?
yeah, mainly basically pronunciation.
Okay.
Just choosing words,
Okay.
and trying to get into the proper pronunciation of them.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Being able to identify word stems in the form of consonants, and being able to sound them out, stuff like that.
Oh, okay. Islam.
Mhm.
I always like to I
Mhm.
always like to ask ahead because
Oh yeah.
but I know if I have any issues, I can always call and I got my other scribes. We all got each other's back. But great class, Dr. Shaheed. I'm sitting here thoroughly enjoying everything that we are going over. And I just want to say to my Moorish kin who was out there, while you was teaching and showing us different things, you went through the Mustafa Guatala. I love his book and the Poe writing Shipwrecked Sailor. I love that particular Peppers. I love working with that one. But I want to say to my Moorish kin out there, and this is in love. And the number one thing, when you see, when you doing your research and you see something, the European talking about ancient Greeks, there's nothing ancient about the Greeks. Just know when you see something saying ancient Greek, just know that they are trying to write themselves in the history right there. Because see, they don't have no history. They don't have no history. That's his story. He's trying to put himself in there. And keep in mind, they come up. We the one made them. So they don't have no history. So it ain't no such thing as ancient Greek. I know when you're doing your research and stuff, that always pop up, especially for you, my new family members out there. When you doing your research, when you see ancient Greek, just know it ain't no such thing as ancient Greek. That's something they then took from us, and they trying to make like they come up with it, knowing that we are the ones who gave everything to the world. They know that, but they trying to keep you in the dark. So be aware of that. And the next thing I want to say to my family out there who are listening to us, family, we got to want this. And I'm talking about myself. See, when I always been hungry, I always wanted to know the truth. And when you have a desire, you know you've been lied to, but you just don't know where to start. When you have that desire, that hunger, when you got that hunger, you're going to do your research and see. Our prophets say this is a new era time now. See, it's time out for us to just sit there. You know how we used to do when we was in the church, listen to the preacher. And a lot of times he didn't know either. He was in ignorance too. But a lot of them did know. They know the truth, but they know they was telling us a lie. But it's time out for you just sitting there, just taking, listen to them and just taking the word for it, not doing no research or nothing like that. And we are bringing you, we're showing you, we showing you the writings. We showing you where we getting everything from. Documentation, beat conversation. And then we turn around and tell you, don't just take our word. You do it. You go do your research. This is what go ingrain this into your spirit. And I'm speaking for myself. When I first started this, yes, it was a challenge because me coming out of Christianity, I didn't have a clue. But I stayed with it, and I was hungry. And the more I got in it, the more I understood. I asked questions. I got over that fear of thinking this is a dumb question, because there is no dumb. Now, when you are being sincere and you really want to learn, you can ask any question. But I know sometimes people ask questions, they be antagonists. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking about the person out there who really wants to know the truth. Ask your questions. There is no dumb question, because I had to get over that and understand, when you really want to learn, you'll get your answer. And I just want to encourage my Moorish kin out there. You got, like Dr. Shahi saying, and I'm talking to myself too. And I'm doing that. I'm trying to get in and study more, trying to taking out time out of my schedule and setting aside certain amount of hours each day to study this. The more you study, and wow, the great God Allah and the Holy Prophet, they'll start revealing stuff to you. It'll just show up. It'll just pop out to you. It's fun, family. Like you always hear me say, I'm having fun. But you got to do your research. You just can't sit here and let us do all the work and then you try to parrot what we say. It don't work that way. You got to get in there and do the work. And I thank, praise the great God Allah. I got my son, that one was out there in Texas. He's anxious for me to start teaching him. I'm getting him the information. We going over the. I'm getting ready to start studying with him with the alphabets and stuff. And I want him to teach it to my grandbabies. And this is gonna help me, so that way I know where I need some improvement at. I like to start with my family and teaching them. So that'll help me. That's gonna help me to get stronger and stronger and be able to get this message out. So gratitude, God man, for all that you do. Like I say, as always, I always enjoy our classes. So Islam, gratitude, peace and love.
Islam, gratitude, and peace and love, Sister Curta Bay. We give honors to you for that drawing. Praise be to Allah. All right. Next scribe.
Islam.
Islam, Dr. Marvin Nathaniel Bay. What do you have you to say, grand man?
I'm grateful for calling in. Yes, this is Dr. Marvin Evans Bay. Oh, and powerful class. Praise and honors have been given. Yeah, I just wanted to say, yeah, this is a very powerful class. Got a lot of information, and it's good to go. I mean, to incorporate everyone that's in the audience into this instruction, because I mean, the job of discombobulating everything, or confusing everything, and misdirecting everyone. Um, you know, it that's a job in itself. Just going through correcting what they, you know, did incorrectly. And so that's why it's paramount that we study these. You know what I mean, and really go in, like the goddess was saying. Yeah, you really got to study this. It's not an easy thing, but it gets. Um, I was gonna say, trying to think of a better word. I mean, it comes more, functional to one. I mean, once you understand um, the alphabets, and then how they changed, what I mean, understand what actually went down as far as trying to call an anaglyph, which is, the hieroglyphs, a letter. You know what I mean? And it's more of well, it's not more of, it is a metaphysical interpretation. You know what I mean? And due to the fact that it's our language, I mean, we will be able to connect with that metaphysical part. You know what I mean? And actually understand the hidden lessons that's still within. Because the European never say decipher the hieroglyphs. And but it's a good thing being here. You know what I mean? And working with a brother that's giving us these lessons in love. That's what it's all about. You know what I mean? And understanding that we didn't know anything about it, so it's going to take time. You know what I mean? And it's going to take us purifying our hearts and minds as well. You know, so that we can get rid of all those the competitiveness that we have, and instead of just being ourselves. You know what I mean? And being open minded and listening and learning. That's what it's all about. I mean? Coming back into our natural selves, you know, before the remix came about. And I just want to say, yeah, I'm just grateful for being here and still here and still learning. And I just say gratitude, God, man, for allowing me to speak. Islam in peace.
And gratitude for the measure, grand man. Praise be to Allah. Islamism without the schism. All right, Brother Bati Bey, you have a measure to bring forth?
Islam. Islam, grandman. The one thing I'm gonna say about, you got to remember with history, and that's why I like the term antiquity better than I do history, because history is just, like the guy that said, it's just their form of story and their interpretation. And I was watching this brother. He said, "How old is the African, basically the bloodline, and it said what they had was 7 million years old. And it said, how old is the European bloodline? It said 4,500. This is what they had, some type of measuring stick to come up with that. And so when we're looking at the information, especially about us, our languages, and things of that nature, it would be in their best interest to put it as like we were talking through pictures, because to them that is you know primitive. That is a primitive aspect of what they were interpreting, and being in this class, in this school of thought, is something that saying it grounds you. A more, if you look up another definition of more, it means anchoring. And this is what it does with the language that is being recreated, reconstructed with the culture and origin, our culture being recreated and, constructed. This is something that a lot more people you figure would be thankful for. And I'm not saying they're not thankful. I'm saying that there would be more, as far as more gracious, when it comes down to being able to receive information of this, of this quality for free. The brother even said that, you go to a college, what you're going to pay for this. And this is, you're talking about doctorate degrees of study. This is, they won't even, they'll still be showing you the strokes on the alphabet, and you're 4 or 5 years in. This is, so what's being taught here for free is something that, I'm not shocked that there's not more people, but at the same time, it's like, wow, you figure more people would be apt, especially when we're trying to create something for us, and that's by us. So with that, I just leave as a common piece. Honors to you and your studious measures that you put out here faithfully, without no stint, without getting paid for it. And honest to all the scribes online, Islam.
And Islamism, grand man, we give honors to you for that love thought. Yes, sir. Praise be to Allah. Islamism without the schism. Yeah, and a lot of that, like I said before, has to do with the fact that we definitely know that Rome got us shadow banned. Because I hashtag everything, put the information in there. Sometimes we get good numbers on the information, but I know that I've been doing it long enough. And I've been on a lot of different platforms to where, definitely we should have a little more activity, but we ain't really worrying about the numbers. We just worry about trying to get it out there, and, most people will come back later and see it here and there. Whoever meant to get it, gonna get it. And then it may be even a good reason for certain people not getting it. Because some people would try to steal things and remix them. Anyway, so by the time they get to trying to steal it and remixing, we already be done the work. So we give honors to you, grand man, for that drawing, for everything that you do. Well, all right. Honors to the scribes, Anquajet Sanev, Shemotepu, life, health, and prosperity be upon you, and peace I offer to you, family, as we make our departure into the heights of divinity. So we're going to call forth now our sister, Grand National Secretary of the State of North Carolina, Curtis Bay, take us into the heights of our divinity. Islam, goddess and queen.
Islam, Islam, Islam. Gratitude, God, man. And I'd just like to say one last thing. I'm reminded of that scripture. This is for you, Dr. Shaheed, when it says, seek ye first the kingdom of God and all of his righteousness, and then all the other things shall be added unto you. And we give honors to you again for all that you do. And Allah is the one that is rewarding you. We don't have to pay no money or nothing like that. But see, the great God Allah got you, and I know He got you, and your reward is coming from Him. So gratitude again, family. We love you. And I was read warning, January the 15th, 1929. A warning from the prophet to be read at every meeting. I hereby inform all citizens that they must end all radical agitating speeches while at work, in their homes, or on the streets. We are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these laws will be a severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any citizen or group of citizens who hold malicious feelings toward the government or the prophet or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the law as laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in their card and button, cease wearing their turban and fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, found you. This is a holy and divine movement founded by the prophet, noble Jew Ali. And if the prophet is not right, the government is not right. The prophet, therefore, is sending out the divine plea to all Moorish Americans that they do their part in protecting their prophet and the government. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways by the order of Prophet Noble Jew Ali. A holy covenant of the Asiatic nations. Ye are the children of one father, provided for by his care, and the breast of one mother have given you suck. Let the bonds of affection, therefore, unite thee with thy brothers, that peace and happiness may dwell in thy father's house. And when ye separate in the world, remember the relation that bindeth you to love and unity, and prefer not a stranger before thy own blood. If thy brother is in adversity, assist him. If thy sister is in trouble, forsake her not. So shall the fortunes of thy father contribute to the support of his whole race, and his care be continued to you all in your love to each other. Islam, Islam, Islam. This meeting is officially adjourned according to Act 2 of Love, Truth, Peace, Freedom, and Justice. Go in peace, family. Islam.
Grand class.
Great class. Great class. Woo-wee.
Islam, Islam, Islam. Peace and love.
Islam. Peace and love, family.
Islam. Islam. Peace and love, Moors. Gratitude. Gratitude for the draw. Islam.